Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Phaladipika. It's chapter 16. We're going to look at the three texts that talk about the third Lord's conjunction. How you interpret the third Lord. So, trying some different things with the stream today, trying a different microphone. Hopefully, it sounds good. And trying some different settings on the video. It seems to look a little weird. Give me a sec. 1 second. But then this doesn't look that great either, does it? Just a sec. Sorry. These are the things that one obsesses over. All right, let's just go with this. Whatever it is, that's what it is for today. All right, so we want to talk about Phaladipika, chapter 16, and the text on the third Lord. Let's put that up on the screen. Give me a heads up if you cannot hear me, or if it sounds weird, or if it sounds good. So we're doing text 7, 8, and 9. The seventh text is Bandho Yadisyat Tanushaurya Natago Anyonya Rashi Sta Tayor Baladheyo Dhairyam Chashoryam Sahajanukulatam Prapnotayam Sahasakarya Kartratam. What we're going to learn by looking at how the third Lord is interpreted is really a lot about what the third house represents. That's the good thing about doing all this stuff. So, his first statement here is, if the first and third lords influence each other, then the native has confidence and strength, cooperative peers, and is able to do dangerous, daring things. This is especially positive if they've exchanged houses, are both strong, and have some sort of friendship. So let's talk about that for a second. If the third and the first lords influence each other is just another way of saying if the third lord is prominent. Because the surest way for something to become prominent is to influence the first lord or the first house. So that's what he's saying. But there's also a bit of resonance between the first lord and the first house and the third house, because the first house is self and third house is selfish. So besides just the fact that this means the third lord will be prominent, it means there's kind of a synergy on self indicators. If the first and the third lord join each other. So what he says will be the results of a prominent third lord is basically just the same as describing the character of the third house. There's something called dhairya, which means confidence. There's something called shaurya, which means strength. So that's what you get from the third house. You get this kind of masculinity that's very confident and powerful, heroic. And you get, the third house also has to do with how we deal with peers, how we compete, really. So how we do with peers includes siblings. So if there's a prominent third lord influencing the first lord, then we should have cooperative peers that don't interfere with us. Anukulya sahaja. Our peers should be willing to cooperate with us. And we should be able to kind of dominate them a bit so that they can cooperate with us rather than we cooperating with them. And then the fourth thing really about this is I am sahasakarya. Sahasa means entrepreneurial. This is the nature of the third house. It's entrepreneurial. Saha means adventurous, daring, dangerous, willing to do something dangerous, willing to take risks. So what he said so far is if the third and the first lords influence each other, then the native has got a lot of third house qualities. Makes very simple sense. And what are third house qualities? They're confident, they're brave, they're strong, they're assertive. They kind of command their people. You don't necessarily have to be junior to them to come under their command. Even when you're equal to them, you come under their command. And they're not scared. So they're willing to take a risk or do something dangerous. I'm hearing strange sounds from the other side of the universe. It sounds like weird monsters or something. This is especially positive if they have exchanged houses, are both strong, and have some sort of friendship. So this is another really important point. Basic connections are made just by establishing connections between things in a chart. Like the third lord is connecting to the first lord. It makes a basic connection of the themes of the third house and makes them prominent. But whether or not those themes can have a positive slant or a negative slant. Take sahasa. Sahasa can mean a thief. Sahasa can mean an entrepreneur. It's the same thing, but one is a slant that's positive and one is a slant that's negative. If you're very daring, then you might be very stupid. You may be very rash. And a prominent third house can indicate a person that's really rash. They don't prepare much. They don't do risk assessment. They just rush right in. So that could be a bad thing or that could be a great thing. You're bold, you're brave, you're daring, you take your risk, you strike when the iron is hot, you know. So the second thing that he says is whether or not this will go positive or negative depends on the positivity of the connection. If the third lord connects to the first lord in positive situations, then you get positive confidence, positive strength, positively cooperative peers. You know, you're not dominant. They're supportive. You get entrepreneurship rather than rashness. Conversely, if it's under negative situations, then you get negative permutations of those things. So what he identified as a particularly positive way for the third and the first lord to form a link to each other is if they are in Anyonya Rashi, if they have exchanged their houses. The other thing is, he says, let them both be strong. Both of the planets should be in good conditions and both of them should be strong. And the other thing is, he says, the third and the first shouldn't really be enemies with each other. They should have some kind of friendship. So it's a very clear, simple, and rational technique, which is just an instance of very general good technique for interpreting anything in a chart. You understand? Any questions about it? I'll show you an example. Peers are not just siblings. Third house is all about sahaja. It's not limited to peers. It means your same generation. Generally, older people are superior, younger people are inferior, and the people that are your same age are peers. Der Wolf says, is Mars the karaka for both of these houses? Yeah, both of these houses. No, Mars is the karaka for only the third. Sun is the karaka for the first. Adi says, exchange is not equal to mutual aspect, correct? Actually, I don't know the answer to your question, but the way that Mantreshwar wrote it in this text, exchange is superior to mutual aspect. He singled that out as a great example of how they would join with to each other, ensuring mutual friendship. You want to see them join to each other, ensuring mutual friendship. So, for example, let me show you this. Where are we? Let's see this for a second. In this chart, you got the third lord. Did it join the first lord? No. There's some reasonable amount of mutual aspect. So there's some reasonable amount of this in this particular chart. There's some amount. It's not like this chart is not saying this person conspicuously lacks these qualities. There's like enough. There's somewhat of a connection between the third and the first lord in this chart. Are they mutually friendly with each other? Not really. They have some natural neutrality towards each other, but their distance from each other demotes the natural neutrality. So all in all, it looks like the person is not really matching the positive. This chart is not really matching the positive description from this statement. It's not sorely or obviously the opposite or lacking, but it's not really there. So this native should not come across as somebody that's strikingly masculine. But it wouldn't necessarily be strikingly lacking in that. Let's contrast this with a chart of a friend of mine. If you look at this chart, the third lord is Saturn. Saturn is exalted in Libra in this chart. And Venus, the lord of Libra, is in Capricorn. So here you have the first. It's not the first and the third lord, is it? But you have the third lord in house exchange. So it's pretty good. And the third lord is exalted. But it's not with the first lord, actually. So who cares in a sense? Again, this person is like, they give off more of a masculine sense. There's more confidence, there's more daring, but it's not particularly over the top. So any questions about that simple technique? Right. So there's some, don't notice. With this chart, there's a little bit better than the previous one because this one, they have some friendship. The first and the third lords have some friendship here. And the third lord is in exaltation and it's in a house exchange with somebody. All right, let's take a look at the next text. The next text is Shaurya pe balini sadgraha yukte. Shaurya pe balini sadgraha yukte karake pi shubha bhavam pete. Bhratrivrittir athavirya vihine dhustane bhavati sodara nasha. Siblings are strengthened, or saudara, siblings and peers. So that means the quality of your relationship with them is strengthened if the third lord is strong and joined with good planets. And even the Karaka is in good houses. Is in a good house. Let's put it that way. Conversely, siblings are weakened if the third lord is weak and in a dustan. Okay, so that's one of the themes of the third house. So that's what happens when you interpret the lord of a house. You're going to interpret how the themes of the house go. So if the third lord is strong, then siblings are strong. If the third lord is strong and joined with good planets, then siblings are strong and helpful. If even the Karaka is also in a good situation, then it's for sure. And then you can just apply the rule in reverse too. If the Karaka is in a bad situation and also the third lord is in a bad situation, then the things of the third house go bad. Here he's just talking about siblings. Doesn't it make great, easy sense? So I can show you an example of this one. I'll show you an example of this here. Let's turn this back on. I think I can show you an example of this one. Let's see, I have this one on the plate. Take a look at this chart. Where's the third lord? It's in its own house and it's exalted. So the third lord is strong, and then therefore so is the third house, right? Is it with a good planet? It's pretty strongly aspected by Jupiter. It's conjoined by Venus somewhat. It's near the second lord, but not combust. So it sort of looks like it's fulfilling this criteria pretty well. Let me just reread the criteria one more time. The third lord is strong and joined with good planets. And the Karaka, okay, let's check the Karaka. The Karaka, Mars, however, it's in a dusthana. It's in the 12th house. So like somebody like me, my chart, I don't have any brothers and sisters. And I tend to clash with the peers. I tend to be better either with seniors or juniors and not do so well with peers. So simply look in my chart, the Karaka of my third house, Mars, is very combust and in a dustan. And the lord of the third house is in Sandhi. It's in Pavasandhi. And there's Rahu in the third house. Whereas this person has a brother and a sister, and the brother and the sister have no problems. But the brother and the sister are very far away from this person, physically distant. So you could potentially sleuth that out from seeing this chart. And this person isn't really the best in the world with what do you say? With contemporaries, with peers, but they're not really markedly bad either. That's more about having Ketu in the 11th house. With this person's case, the way that they don't really conflict with peers. They just kind of have a lack of relationships with them. But here also you see the Karaka Mars is influencing the house by its aspect. So that's a good indication. Is it making sense? The third lord is strong. It's in the third house. Therefore, the third house is strong. The Karaka, however, is in a distant place. It's in a dusthana. But yet it's influencing the third house. So the overall presentation of the chart, the overall interpretation of the chart is the person has siblings. Siblings are okay. And they're far away or something, or they're not really. There's something missing about the relationship with the siblings. Sensible? That's it. We're going a little fast. We got now the third topic to cover. And the third topic is a yugma rashao. This particular technique is very useful. And it's not just limited to the third lord. This is a very simple technique. For example, with the Mahabhagya Yoga. Mahabhagya Yoga is probably the most well-known implication of this particular technique. So just listen to the technique itself and you'll see it. It's very simple, very sensible, and very meaningful. A yugma rasho yadi karakesho gurvarka bhusunu nirikshitaus chet ojo griha syadyadi vikramakya pumdhataras tvam shavashad bhaveyu. The wording is a little interesting at the end, but most of it is very simple. If the third, let me see, do I have this on screen? Nope, 1 second. If the third house, third lord, and third karaka, Mars, are in male signs and aspected by male planets, then the native is renowned for being very manly, masculine. So this is one of the most important things to understand about the third house. Most of the masculine qualities are signified by the third house. Just like I would say most of the feminine qualities are signified by the fourth. That's really third and fourth that are masculine and female, and somewhat 10th is masculine and 11th is feminine. So kind of those mirrors. But really, third house, if masculinity is not a keyword that pops in your head when you think of the third house, then you really need to go back to your basics and relearn and reconsider the way that you understand your houses. So for that, I recommend my book, Radically Deep Fundamentals of Astrology, available right now on Amazon.com. Or like the first video, or one of the first videos I ever uploaded was 12 Houses of Astrology on my channel. That should really be a basic thing that you understand. So we're not really going to walk away from interpreting the third lord without saying something about masculine qualities. It doesn't matter if your gender is male or female. Everybody has a certain amount of masculine and female qualities. Masculine and feminine qualities. Because that's just the way life is. And it's not like females don't need masculine qualities, and it's not like males don't need female qualities. Males mostly need masculine qualities, females mostly need feminine qualities, but everybody needs some of both. And sometimes you have exceptional cases of physical genders and qualities not really lining up too much. So when you're going to look at the third house, it doesn't matter if you're looking for a male or a female, you're going to be thinking about the masculine qualities that this person possesses. He's going to explain what are masculine qualities. It's Vikrama. This is a lot of people name their boy Vikrama. Vikrama is a very masculine word. It means they do great things. They do big things. They can do things that other people can't do. Vikrama, kra is a very masculine sound, isn't it? Kra means to do. Men do. Men don't feel, men do. Kra. Vikrama means they're very good at doing. They do stuff that other people cannot do. They accomplish what other people can't do. That's a masculine quality, to have that confidence, that bravery, that ambition to do something that never got done before. Vikrama. And then Pumdhatara. By the way, this has a typo in some of the existing editions. Pumbhatara. But as far as I would say, it's Pumdhatara, which is a very interesting word, really. Pumdhatu, which means, pum means male, and pum, it means male because males, both in fighting and also in mating, Males are the pounder. They pound. And that's what pung means pound. That's where the English word pounding comes from. Pung, so punch. So pung dhatara means you have the metal, the dhatu. You have the metal, mettle, that is forceful. You have a forceful or strong metal. It's another masculine quality. We can see when you say something to men, sometimes the way they get excited about it is just usually they raise a fist in the air or something. But when you say something to women, they like sink into it and they like cry about it and their eyes glass up and they think about it and they feel it. So men are not really soft like that. They have something called pung dhatara. They have a pounded or a thickened or an intensified interior of their metal. That comes from third house. If the third house is really good, then you're hard. Where I grew up, in the place where I grew up, that was the ideal. Got to be hard, otherwise the world's gonna just wreck you. You're impervious. That's pundhatara. And then this another quality of what does masculinity mean? That's what it means. It means pundhatara. Your interior is tough. Vikrama means you're bold. Amshavashat means you're in control of your subordinates. It's a very interesting word. Masculinity is dominant, and therefore it takes control of the subordinates. People that don't have good control of their subordinates, the reason is probably there's something wrong with the third house and the other masculine things in the chart. Not the reason, but the astrological signature of it. It will show up in the third house and the other masculine stuff in the chart, like Mars, Sun. But people who have dominant Mars and Sun and third house, they're able to make their employees do what they want. They're able to make their servants and assistants do what they're supposed to do. They're able to keep their children in line. They're able to make their kids go to sleep on time. They're able to make their kids do their homework. So that's what people mean by masculine qualities, and that's what you get from the third house. Now, how would you get that from the third house if all the masculine stuff is well aligned? This is what I was saying is a very good, simple, very universal technique for interpreting anything in astrology. It's just to see how the alignment of symbols work. So if you're dealing with masculine, feminine, which is also a very good way to look at things, because it's a polarity that's very easy, and astrological symbolism lends itself well to it. So if you're, for example, considering that polarity, masculine and feminine things in a chart, you will see it. The more you see the feminine things line up with feminine things, and the femininity of the person is very prosperous. The more you see masculine things line up with masculine things, and the masculinity of those masculine things become prosperous. But the more you see cross-pollination of masculine and feminine, the more the person sort of is confused about what they should be and how they should act. Or their instinct to act is a little different than the way that they should have acted in this particular situation, based on what other people expect from them. So that's all he's saying here, is if you have the third house and you put it in Ayugma Rashi, which means a odd numbered sign. Which means what? 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. What signs are those? Aries, Gemini, Leo. What do those signs have in common? They're all masculine. Ayugma Rashi is a way of saying a male sign. And then he says, if it has Nirikshita Iksha of Guru, Arka, and Bhusunu. That's Jupiter, Sun, and Mars. Why are those three planets significant? Because those are the three male planets. There are no other male planets. Those are the three male planets. It will be even intensified more, but it's not like you wouldn't really want Guru's influence, because Guru is a very smart man. You might think the more I have Mars's influence, Mars is the man. If you have too much just influence of Mars, then it goes over the top. Things are also delicate like that. There's a certain balance, just like a microphone. There's a certain point where it's loud enough, and then there's a certain point where it goes a little bit over what's loud enough, and then it starts to sound like this. It gets all distorted. So you don't really want to have your femininity or your masculinity go over that balance point. So Jupiter would be very helpful because it's masculine, but not over the distorting point. Sun is like right at the peak point. Mars is a little over. But all three of them will help because they're all masculine, and we're examining a masculine indicator. And he says also if the sign itself, the griha, the sign itself or the house itself is Oja. Oja also means odd numbered, if it's a male house. So that's why I have translated as if the third house, third lord, and Karaka are in male signs and aspected by male planets, then the native is renowned for being very manly. They're powerful, ambitious, dominant, and in firm command of subordinates. Dominant is Amsha Vashat, another way of saying it. And Pumdatara is also kind of indicates dominance. Alrighty? So let me show you something, and then I'll see if there's any questions about this. I'll show you one of my favorite people. I find it very interesting. Bruce Lee. A very difficult chart, actually, but let's just look at this particular thing. The third house itself is male. Guess what? Every time there's a male rising sign, you have a male third house. In the whole sign house system, that's how it works. And it just makes sense, right? If you have a female rising sign, then masculinity is not really amplified by that. But if you have a male rising sign, then masculine traits are amplifiable, much more easily amplifiable. So Bruce Lee has a masculine third house due to him having a masculine rising sign. Where is his third lord? Is it in a masculine sign? No, but look at this. It's at 9 degrees next to Jupiter, across from the sun, and very bright. In other words, it's very bright. And right across from Mars, more or less. I mean, it has 100% aspect from Mars, and Mars is in its own sign. And Mars is also dominating the female planets, really. It's dominating the moon and dominating Venus. And on top of that, you see, you don't just go only by the letter of the thing, but what is this telling you? The more that you see masculine indicators. So on top of this whole thing, he's born at sunrise, like right at sunrise. His ascendant is at 6 degrees and his sun is at 5 degrees. So there's another masculine indicator. So the only thing that he's missing is that his third lord isn't in a male sign. But it's super affected by male planets. And he has a sun rising, so he would really hits this. But again, it's not like fully 100% this, because he has a lot of finesse. He has a lot of finesse, and he has a lot of, what do you call it? Introspection, which are not masculine qualities. So hence his third lord is in, by the way, having a third lord in a Dustan, like the sixth, is actually, having the third lord in the sixth is actually very good for the masculinity. Vice versa, also having the sixth lord in the third. So I think this is a good chart to look at. To see somebody that was an incredible fighter. Any questions? So many retracted messages here. Bardo thinks Rahu at the beginning of Pisces is good. All right, Rahu. All right, Bardo, you got that too? That's like a 1970s-ish trademark. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass right now because Saturn is there. These people love to say who they are instead of asking questions. Angela says, thank you, Angela. Third, the eighth from the eighth for sexuality. Masculinity and sexuality is kind of important together. It's libido. Pizza pie. Would it be accurate to say that the third house, third lord shows the capability or capacity of the native to get things for themselves? That's exactly right, because that's masculinity, isn't it? It's in a nutshell. If you guys are not afraid to talk about masculinity and femininity, that will be very helpful. But if you're afraid of just declaring certain things masculine and certain things feminine, it's not going to help you understand astrology and astrological symbolism, because it just won't. You don't want to become an idiot binary type of person, but you don't have to not understand masculinity and femininity to achieve that. You have to realize that there's such a thing called masculinity and there's such a thing called femininity, and there's measures of it in each person. So, nobody is perfect at everything. What masculinity is good for, femininity is not good for, and what femininity is good for, masculinity is not good for. So things like capacity to get things for yourself, that's a masculine trait. Capacity to fulfill your desire, to get what you want, is a masculine trait. To get things done, that's a masculine trait. So the question is already answered. Right? Just in saying the third house is masculine, it says that the third house impacts your ability to get things done, to get things for yourself. How's the third lord in the seventh? Retrograde. When it's retrograde, it's good. And if it's in the seventh, it's not particularly good or bad on its own. It would be better in the sixth. It would be better for your masculine traits if it's in the sixth. It could be good for your artistic traits when it's in the seventh. Pizza pie. In your videos, you mentioned that third and sixth combinations make a tough person. Yes. What if that is an exalted Mercury in the sixth for an Aries ascendant? Since Mercury is not, it's still tough. Okay. Anything else? What if that is an exalted Mercury in the sixth for an Aries ascendant, since Mercury isn't considered tough? It doesn't matter though, really. But see, Aries getting toughness from Mercury as the third lord in the sixth house would give Aries a strategic edge. It would be their ability to conquer enemies and everything would come via Mercury, which means they would outsmart people, or they would get what they want intelligently, but by figuring out how to do it, not by brute force. All right, folks. I hope you enjoyed that treatment of the third lord's interpretations. Next week, we'll look at the fourth lord's. Thank you very much for joining me.